They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are in the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA.
Check this
He's
out.
gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since they passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery, World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taking better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up. Just like everything with the 16 economists are talking, it's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
The 4-star general standing to your side was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And then now the only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before.
What up? What up?
All right, thank you so much.
Let's move to the top of the foreign policy.
This is kind of ridiculous, man. I ain't gonna lie.
Ukraine, which is now in its 3rd year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war.
What's y'all
comments
about this?
Claimed, and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him.
That's the worst presidential debate ever.
They can't stand him. So let's get that straight.
Let's just keep it real.
More than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine.
Your cat for president, yes.
That was respected.
Her cat for president.
He would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers.
Look at the smile on this guy's face.
Triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened.
I almost believe you, babe. I believe you.
Horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. That when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals.
This is crazy.
General got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
You voting for your cat too?
We left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded
Oh, thank you.
Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business
Thank
with
you.
them.
That
They ran out
aquarium?
of money.
Yeah.
They were broke. They had no money
Got
for
some
Hamas.
stuff in there.
They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
This is crazy.
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first.
He fumbling.
Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president, they attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. We didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans.
It is, bro. This is painful to watch, bro.
During that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where
It really
if
is,
you take a
bro.
look at what Trump did in Ukraine. This guy told Trump, do whatever you want and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did.
Trump
To
did.
Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish. Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. Wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
I'm going
never
to come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute. I just want to go back
This
to
is
my original question.
this is
which
crazy,
are
man.
Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the
No, they're
territory
not
in Ukraine.
acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled.
Your cat is lazy but got a good heart.
As
That's
president-elect,
crazy.
Before I take office on January 20th, I'll have
He
that
lazy
war
but
settled.
got a good heart.
People being killed so needlessly, so stupid.
I believe that, bro.
I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
You know,
You have a minute.
the fact is...
Watch how he fumble over this.
He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine and from weapons we make here in the United States, we give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much
Just
funding
fumbling.
for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages.
That's crazy.
Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has
Fetty
killed
Biden.
thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Anybody, man,
President
you
Biden,
crazy, man.
You've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict.
He just fumbling over
Hamas
everything.
has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Watch this.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan they put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is we train the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard. to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened in Israel, we're finding the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized
What is
the
he
world
talking
against
about?
Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel.
What?
We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so they're two different things.
What is he
Hamas cannot
saying?
allow it to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion.
This
or
shit is
maybe more than
crazy.
that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them? So you
It is, bro. Human Fox, you're 100% right.
Hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General.
You're 100% right, brother.
The most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask him to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them as far as
This is
Israel
terrible to watch because
and
Trump is
Hamas.
just.
Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
This is terrible.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is the guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have, our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. What happens then? He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up.
Just
would
the
you support
confusion
the
in
creation
his
of an
eyes.
independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that,
Let me clean my
We
lens.
spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia? At a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time.
This dude don't know about
I said, no, if you don't pay,
government
I
secrets.
won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you
I'm
rallied
telling you,
supporters
man.
that day, some of them stormed the
I'm
Capitol
trying to smoke
stop
me a
the
little gauze or
Constitution
something, bro,
mandating
just to
count
try to
of
get through
electoral
it.
votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes
I got a
ever.
pike
We
in
had
there.
the lowest regulations ever.
I'll
On
tell you in a
January
second.
6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now left at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation
That's a
under
mag
this
right
man's
there.
leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago,
Oh, this
on tape
dude.
to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility.
Thank you,
I
brother.
was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor.
I
in
appreciate
writing
that
turned
sub
it
too,
down, the
brother.
mayor of
Y'all
DC.
definitely
They turned
subscribe,
it down. I offered 10,000.
like, and
because
share.
I could see. I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? That's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some
This dude.
National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her, and she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours. 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they've talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America.
Like, comment, and
In fact,
subscribe.
he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that you know, he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court, and they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out, and now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people.
Man, this is
When
crazy.
they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities. You go to Minnesota, Minneapolis.
That boy need a frappuccino.
All over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed.
Biden need a
When you look at
frappuccino.
all of the they took
Starbucks.
over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage who's a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is
I knew you were going to hit him with
there was
that.
no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those that are convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him those first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing to, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have.
Interesting.
After a jury convicted you of 34
Interesting.
felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with his son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky.
Interesting.
You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President.
He said, bro needs some
Biden,
milk.
You have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. Well, you want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official of DOJ into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. Prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign.
That's interesting.
Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
That's interesting.
President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases on the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Did you ever hear any presidents say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The people who were the ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people? This is a guy
Take
who
the
says
poll,
Hitler's done
y'all.
some good things.
I want to see where y'all stand at with
Because
this.
Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no
Take the
sense
poll,
about
take the
box.
poll, take the poll.
President Trump.
Subscribe too,
Well, I
y'all.
think
Y'all
now that
subscribe.
story's been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency is, without question, the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Every reasonable actor
Let me
has
change it.
debunked it. And just the other day it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunk. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods,
Coming out
carrying
the
those
forest.
torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated.
Why is this thing not doing what I'm asking it to do here?
We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
What is the dumbest thing you've ever wasted money on?
I was paying for 2 Netflix accounts over like 3 years.
How'd you figure that out?
I saw an app that shows you all the monthly subscriptions you have and how much you're paying.
What is the app called?
Rocket Money.
University of Maryland Global Campus is a school for real life, one that values the successes you've already achieved. Earn up to 90 undergraduate credits for relevant experience, and get the support you need from your first day to graduation day
there we
and
go.
beyond. What will your next success be?
Feeling from a backed up gut? Miralax works naturally with the water in your body to help you go. Through your gut, and your mood will follow. For 8 grams of fiber, try Fiber Gummies. It's kind of amazing.
Make sure y'all take the poll, like, comment, and subscribe too, you hear me?
And look at the difference.
Eyes look brighter and
So,
brighter.
For up to 8 hours.
Lumify really works. See for yourself.
all right, so right now, oh wait, man, I don't got my shirt on or nothing. Hold on. So right now we got the debate going on between Trump and Biden. We also got the poll going. Make sure y'all take the poll. Should that boy be reelected? Or should Trump be reelected? Yes or no? Yes or no on both?
Sleep well with us at Betting Plus.
The summer sale giveaways event is going on now at Betting Plus.
Yeah, I ain't want me in the moon, y'all. With the, know my chest huge.
Or save the tax on our best-selling.
Yeah, I know I'm kind of like Luke Ferrigno.
When something's good, a new store, a great restaurant, a sweet new car.
So what y'all think about the debate?
It's happy customers giving good.
Yeah, they should do something, bro. Biden is losing it, man.
Most of our clients come from referrals from people we helped and turned into big fans.
Biden ain't sharp at all, man.
Help you through this tough time.
This shit crazy.
Big fan out of you.
But y'all take the poll, man. We want to see where this gonna end up at.
We're here to make sure sure you never miss breaking news.
No matter where you live across Southeast Louisiana.
Everywhere, every day.
We're gonna see what a majority of the people fall at on this poll. Do you think Biden should be reelected, or do you think it should be Trump?
You're watching the first presidential debate between President Joe Biden and former
Do you think it should be Biden or Trump?
By CNN at the conclusion of this debate in about 40 minutes. Hope you'll join us for analysis of tonight's key moments.
Our team of political experts.
Give me a quick second. I'll be right back.
Shake up the presidential race over the next 5 months. That's all ahead right here on NBC.
Trump. All right, my boy. Say Trump. Put my shirt on.
From Georgia, let's talk about persistent challenges you both faced in your first terms, and you'd certainly face again in a second term. President Biden, while Black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, Black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge you made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there are more small Black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporate operations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that Black families have to make.
What the hell is he saying?
Is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce Black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any Black family,
that's why you got to go.
Home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit.
That's why he got to go.
So they can get started.
That's why you got to go. This guy.
All those Black families and those Black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning. That if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism.
What?
If they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for Black families.
What the hell is he talking about?
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing Black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled.
Get him, Trump.
And quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there.
He looks so confused. Look at the confusion on his face.
His big kill on the Black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking Black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking Black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 50% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in involved communities.
Thousands and millions of jobs.
We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, if the ACA has increased, I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again. And they're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing it, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for
What is he talking about?
People have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent
What
challenge
the-
is the climate crisis. 2023 was the
I
hottest
can't even
year in
comment
recorded
on
history
these
in
for some reason. They won't let me comment
The
on my
country
own stuff.
confronting
Like,
the
what's going
devastating
on?
effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police.
What did he say?
How close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that.
Oh.
Super predators was his name.
Oh, you forgot about that, Joe?
And they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and
Facts.
universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the
I ain't gonna lie, he did.
With Tim, as you know, Tim
He
Scott
did.
was incredible. He did a great job. Great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea. It was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country. Opportunity zones, and the biggest beneficiary are blacks, and that's why we have the best.
Can't
numbers
lie.
with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job
That's some
for
facts.
Hispanics. But when you see these millions of people pouring into our country and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet, it's a disaster.
38 seconds left.
That's
President
facts.
Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top
This is very
environmental people gave
interesting,
me that
man.
statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. And I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and all that. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just don't have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing in the environment. He put out the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change.
This is crazy, man.
Thing about it, he wants to undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord
That's the two
was
choices, though, man. So
and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And
Of the
I ended
two?
it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it, and it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage, I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do
Consequence?
that? The United States can't get us under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We've made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people who learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay it. And by the way,
so every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many,
I don't know, man. This is ridiculous.
President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
Yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're
18 years old.
I'm proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%. 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
What is he talking about?
Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security?
Hey, I agree with you, bro.
Well, no,
Who that is? Big,
the biggest thing I'll do.
big baby right there, so.
Because he wants to get
Man,
Social Security.
shit.
He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And that's what. And if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that I believe supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only allows them to have that.
What's that, MDD?
Is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where...
Look at this bullshit.
For Black communities, I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants, another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 towards their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. I've got so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and sucker story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security...
Yeah, Trump, you said that shit, dog.
Because millions of people are pouring into our country.
I gotta keep it.
And they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing. And It's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden?
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one who's acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it. Number one.
You going with Biden?
The idea that we're going to be in a situation
Man,
where
this.
all of these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have.
Make sure y'all take the poll. Well, we got some votes in there. All right, cool.
We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession. And inflation is going to increase and go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families,
them kids high, boy.
Child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He's the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants our voters. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He's the worst in history by far.
They're both the worst in history by far.
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world. The finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online. 159 or 58, don't hold the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history, one from best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not
Jordan got warmed up now.
They're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did for virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so.
Man, you got to answer the question now, bro. Come on.
I'll show you. I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm
what about child care, Trump? Come on now.
I will be the best. I think I'll be the best.
This is getting
Nobody's
ridiculous.
ever created an economy like us. like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He
You
wants
ain't
to
saying
cut
nothing
tax
about the
cuts to
Childcare.
expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about it. He's increased.
This shit crazy, man.
He will
Hey, I'm
increase
gonna
the
tune in a little bit
taxes on
longer.
class people.
In a little bit, I guess, man. I'm gonna get back on here and see what people's thoughts is, man. But this is ridiculous. I'm gonna just keep it real, man. My opinion.
That's going to cost the average American $2,000.
You talking about the leader of the free world? You talking about the leader of America? This is the options we got?
And all the things that were reported.
I'm really, you know, man, come on, man. Who? Come on, man. This means we need to get all of the people that put the people up here that run, we need to get them out of there too. You know, Trump a better president than this guy, though. I'm gonna keep it real.
American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are at the lowest trade deficit with China.
I don't even know what he's saying.
Thank you, President Biden.
What is he talking about?
Impacting millions of Americans.
Man, this is giving me a headache.
The opioid crisis, and for both of you, the number.
Now I want to just see if he gonna go. Do not go back. Answer the question.
It went up under your term. It has gone up.
Answer the question.
Despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids.
Answer the question,
What do you
bro.
do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country.
Oh man, this
we have the
dude.
largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a man.
He don't answer the freaking questions, man.
To deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money.
What the hell? Both of them ridiculous. I'm gonna just keep it real. But of the two, I'm gonna have to vote, man. I don't know. I don't know, man. At this point, I don't even care. Cause I'm still gonna have to do what I gotta do. Yeah, we screwed either way, brother. Who that? The girl with the animals. We're screwed either way. More screwed with Biden, but screwed either way. Man, thank you. That's my sentiments. It's just, yes, that's it. The girl with the animals. Yes, ma'am.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help?
Let me see if he gonna answer this question.
Addiction,
bruh.
To get the treatment they need.
Jake, we were doing very well in addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog. That's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot.
Oh,
and
man.
we
We screwed.
very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways.
Gotaways?
The
We screwed.
and human trafficking in women.
The girl with the animals. Thank you.
The worst thing I've ever seen. At numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use them.
Now watch he fumble over this shit.
These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues and said, don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically. No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again,
He
the
offered
things
him
about
something.
Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release.
Oh, man.
Not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing.
They got people really dying from fentanyl, though, Trump.
$6 billion for every time he says a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter. I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for millions of dollars.
Yeah, man. Y'all take the poll, man. Make sure y'all take the poll. Subscribe to the channel. I'm building this channel up to be a men talking or just grown people talking podcast, man. So
A long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases.
I don't know
paid
what's
$6
going
million
on.
for 5 people.
what is?
I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dan?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have
Oh, my
about each of you.
goodness.
President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term.
Good
Have you
old
addressed
time.
Concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s.
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized as being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that look at the record, look at what I've done, look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America.
They both too
Over
old.
billions of dollars in private investment.
I'm gonna keep it real. They both too old, man.
We are growing. By the way, we brought off a lot of people. Well, the whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States, and guess what? Those fabs they call to build these chips. Those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them, and there's billions. About $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
Like, comment, and subscribe,
You have 40
y'all.
seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Let's see.
The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States. All our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest.
Yeah, we need fresh blood up there, y'all. Period, point blank. Because all this is just racism and all that stupid shit that we need to get past as a country. You know, racism, classism, ageism, you know, homophobia and blackphobia and all that kind of shit.
About your capabilities to serve.
Let me see what.
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year.
Oh
and,
man, these guys are
knock on
crazy.
wood, wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior. 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way, and I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test, and you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 225 pounds, or 35 pounds. Well, you said 6'4".
That was MCP.
Well, anyway, that's
Man, these dudes is crazy. Man, America, man.
I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest liability, is a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8. But I have,
I've seen you.
President Trump, we're going to
Let's not act like children.
to a specific concern.
Come on, man. Y'all serious, man.
That once all legal challenges have been exhausted,
We need to start aiming at all of
the
the.
results of this election, regardless of who wins, and
We need to start aiming at.
political violence in any
Wait,
form.
that's a good question. Let me leave this up.
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a
Joe
great
Biden
president.
ain't
I
indicted
would
you,
rather
man.
have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation.
Man.
And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies
America,
are
we got to do better.
insane.
Period.
They're
I'm
insane.
telling y'all
These
right
wars,
now.
it will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer
I'm
to
telling
World
y'all
War
right
III
now.
than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North
Telling y'all
Korea,
right now,
all
America.
of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all, and required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done, what they've done. Because we're a powerful nation. We have wonderful peace because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might.
Oh my goodness.
Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia. Because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with
I can see
golden domes that are 1,000 years old.
What
all
you saying?
because of him and
When was
stupid
America ever
decisions.
great for
Russia
everyone
would have never
equally?
attacked. if I were
President Trump, the
president.
question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins?
That's
Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good
yes
election,
or no.
absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on
This
it in a
guy.
week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely. There's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepted anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back.
All right, y'all.
From the CNN
Take the poll, like, comment, subscribe.